Hello, I'm John McAllister with the John McAllister Sports Report. Today, I'm going clear to Springfield, Massachusetts to visit with an old friend of mine. Coach began his coaching career in Toledo. He's from Toledo. I coached high school ball there at St. Francis and Waite. And then he moved on to the college ranks, and I knew him when he was at Wingate, and then also now he is in Massachusetts. He has just been this year. He was the interim coach at AIC, or American International College, and now in the spring he's become the full-time head football coach. Division II school. Dan Chipka, or as I call him, Chip, as many people do, has followed the process and he's done a great job. It's a Division II school, not quite the level of football maybe in Ohio, but it's a program that it's on its way up. Yeah, been very successful about I don't know 10 years ago, and then it's coming back. Dan Chipka will offer you a lot of advice. He's seen a lot, and I'm excited to talk with him. And so, if you'll sit back and enjoy my conversation with Dan Chipka, the head football coach at American International College. Like I said earlier today, my old friend is my guest, Dan Chipka, originally from Toledo, Ohio, Anthony Wayne, I think, high school, and he played at Bluffton University. But I first met you, Chip, when you came to a football camp or a combine down in Columbus.
That's right.
And right away then, I knew you were so concerned about making your kids better, because you had 3 or 4 kids, I think, but you drove down and you always are asking me about camps and combines. Chipka, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, John. I'm excited to be on this morning. And yeah, I remember that day, I guess all those days that I made the drive down to Columbus to attend your camp showcases and combines. And what you do for young people in the state of Ohio with football is tremendous, and I'm excited to be on.
Well, I've slowed down a little bit now. I'm 76 years old, so I'm slowing down. The thing I remember about you first was I got a call or an email or something from a head coach up in Toledo and saying, "Hey, if you need to know about my players, come through me." And I said, "Well, we're not going to mention any names," but I said, "Well, you start promoting your kids and I will." So you remember that. I guess that's a thing I told you about. But let's talk about now. American International College in Springfield, Mass. Okay. I've got a grandson here, 6'2", 210. I like you. Tell me about American International College.
Sure. So I'll lead with just where it's at, I guess, geographically. We're in Springfield, Massachusetts. The Basketball Hall of Fame is here, right in our city. It's the third largest metropolitan area in Massachusetts. Of course, Boston being the largest, Worcester being the second largest, and then there's us. We're about 40 minutes north of Hartford, so it's very centrally located. There's a lot of attractions. I would say that for the entire Northeast. It's very densely populated, and you don't have to go very far for things to do and people to see. And speaking of that, we're an urban campus, so we're right outside the heart of the city here in Springfield, and we're a small college campus of about 2,000 students. So I think it's where you can get the best of both worlds. You can get a small educational experience, but yet you're not in kind of the rural outskirts of town or the hills of Massachusetts. you're in the thick of things here in the city. So from that standpoint, you could have it all. And from a football standpoint, it's an exciting time because we're getting better every day. About maybe 10, 15 years ago, AIC was competing for championships and what was one of the powers of the Northeast. And we got to get back to that winning standard and tradition. And I'm confident that the guys that we have in the program are totally bought in, and the coaches are doing a phenomenal job. And we have a lot of momentum this offseason. We just got to capitalize that kind of with each phase now. So we're in spring ball. We just got to continue to capitalize on our opportunity and get better. And I think things will, as they say, the results will take care of themselves if you just focus on the process and really master that from a day to day.
Okay, that's really super. Define international. Why is international in there?
Yeah, so in the late 1800s, it was the vision of the school to provide a pathway for immigrants coming through Ellis Island to travel up to Springfield, Massachusetts, and to really just assimilate into the American culture. So, still today we have a heavy international influence on campus. I always tell recruits that our leading tackler 3 years ago was Roddy Padilla, born and raised in Cuba. We had a quarterback, Paul Singleton from Spain, and he actually got signed by the Barcelona Dragons. So he was halfway through his collegiate career here with us, and then went to play professionally over in Europe. So, that's just the kind of the international influence that has touched or impacted the football program. But I mean, the volleyball team, the hockey team, the baseball team, the lion's share of their players are from other countries. So it makes for a true melting pot here on campus. And
sure.
Yeah, I mean, even our dining commons, the international cuisine is outstanding. Speaking of a recruiting pitch, that typically speaking, we have an international cuisine bar, and it's very popular on campus.
That sounds really good. Okay, let's go. I will stay with what you're doing right now. Okay, now for people here in Ohio or across or whomever's watching, okay, Division II. Okay, Division II in Ohio is really, really good. Okay, and I think with the NIL and the transfer portal, Division II is going to get bigger. It's going to get bigger because they're going to fall down through the cracks. And Division II here in Ohio is Ohio Dominican, Ashland, Tiffin, Findlay, and I think there's one up in Cleveland, maybe Lake Erie or one of those schools. So in my mind now compare you to Findlay, University of Findlay or Tiffin.
Well, that's a difficult comparison. Being from Ohio, from high school to Division III, I played Division III football in Ohio, to Division II, and then of course with the Group of Five and Power Four. You can make a strong argument Ohio is one of the true blue blood states in America. So to your point, the Division II powers that are in the state of Ohio are significant. Now, getting out into the Northeast, football just isn't as what I would say as it's not as big as it is in the Midwest, specifically Ohio. So it's a tougher comparison from a facility standpoint and just in terms of how competitive and how tradition rich a lot of these schools have been. I mean, like Ashland, I believe they just completed their indoor facility maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, I remember that when they were building that, taking recruits, and it was the blueprints looked gorgeous. And I think I've looked online and it's completed now. And so just from an infrastructure and facility standpoint, there really is no comparison. But football in the Northeast it's been a transient. I would say decade, because a lot of the teams are slingshotting themselves to D1, like Merrimack and Stonehill, LIU Post, they've kind of gone up.
Okay. That's good. That's just a good idea about where you guys are. But nobody, probably not a lot of people know exactly. It might be, and I'm not might be a step down talent-wise, but yet it's Division II. So, that says something in itself about AIC. Okay, let's go. I don't want to get on this too long because I would rather talk about you, but let's talk about, your rise to get there. You coached at Wade, I think, and St. Francis, and I've been with you a lot of times at St. Francis, and then you made some moves. I followed your career a little bit just by seeing your name and things like that. Tell me about the Charlotte coaching job. Was it Charlotte University?
Well, so it was Wingate University just outside of Charlotte.
Okay.
And so when COVID hit and everybody was able to work remotely,
right.
My wife too worked remote. And as kind of COVID was tapering out in 2021, her employer said that she's been doing such a good job, and if she would like to stay remote, then she could. And that really was the key that unlocked a lot of freedom and I guess possibilities for my family and I. So, getting into college football is difficult because you move a lot.
Right.
And when my wife working in a brick and mortar building, just the opportunity for us to move was very difficult. So when she was allowed to work remote, I started applying at a number of jobs, and one of them was in Wingate, which is outside of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Right.
Will Reich, the head coach, emailed me back hours later. I mean, it was immediate.
Right.
And for about 10 days, a week and a half, we were emailing and phone calling, and I was calling the other staffers just to see if this was going to be a good fit and such, because that's kind of a big plunge going from high school head coach to I guess one of the lower guys on the totem pole there in staff. And that didn't bother me so much as it was just a strong opportunity in a remarkable program and a remarkable staff that just excited me. And
then you went from where then, Chip? Where did you go next then from Wingate?
Okay. And there was a job that opened up at AIC in Springfield, Massachusetts. And you and I kind of spoke off air of just the support of my wife and the her family and my family just to make all this happen. I think we've moved 4 times in 4 times in 4 years, really. And now we have a baby boy, and he just turned 1, and we probably need some more room. And we're looking again to move this time a little bit closer.
Right?
That'll be 5 moves in 5 years. So it's been awesome. It hasn't been easy, but to the support of my family and my wife specifically, it's been really good. And at AIC, making that move, it was tight ends and fullbacks coach. I took on slot wide receivers to taking on some special teams roles, and just kind of climbed up the ladder in a quick fashion here, and was named the interim head coach last season, and now the full-time head coach in January. So
I'll stroke you twice. Number one, your wife is amazing. I met her. I knew her before you were married. She's way, way too attractive for you. And supposedly her back hurts because she's carrying you.
Yeah.
But she's a great lady. And now you got a little papoose, got a little baby. That's amazing. Good. The other thing you must be doing correctly is you've moved up in that program. So somebody likes you at AIC. And you didn't say, but you won 4 this past year, right?
Yeah, we won 4 games. So it was a short runway. It was. Go ahead.
You hadn't won that many games for a while, had they?
No. So I believe that was the best season in I don't know 4 years or so. So
good.
We had a chance though at the end of the year. Had we have won our Week 11 game, we could have had the best season in 11 years. So that we're right there to turning the corner. 4 wins may not sound like a lot, and that's certainly not what we aspire to do. But it is improvement, and we're on the right track, and we're really excited about the trajectory.
Good recruiting class coming in. Obviously, every coach is going to say that, but are you excited about the recruiting class coming in?
Yeah, and I think you'll find this interesting, John, with all the I think with all the effort and energy that you've poured into high school football and high school prospects in the state of Ohio over the years, it's kind of a precarious spot for us coaches, especially Division II and FCS coaches right now, because a lot of guys are not recruiting the high school ranks. They're strictly living in the transfer portal. And I think one of our competitive breadcrumbs is we're doing the opposite. I could not be more invested in high school players and high school football here in the Northeast, and the dividends that it's in terms of recruiting that it's given us in the last 2 years has been unbelievable. So I really think that we're signing a number of FCS players that just aren't getting those opportunities anymore because of the transfer portal. And our staff is doing a great job of identifying these guys early, and then it's a race to get them on campus. And then I really think that our staff has a lot of infectious personalities where we get their families on campus, and it's, I think all the heavy lifting's done. The families are committing in droves to kind of buy into the vision of things here.
Really good. Okay. Let me look at my notes here real quickly. Okay. Let's talk about you. Okay. Let me get my notes here. Let's talk about you. What made you want to become a head football coach?
Well, that's a good question. I would say that so I grew up in education. My father was a teacher. My mother was a teacher's aide. My aunt, it's kind of the family business that we've always served other people, served communities. And I do think that teachers have a knack of communicating and just a knack of giving back and spilling their lives into other people. So from that standpoint, I always knew that I wanted to do that, whether that was through church or through school or through sports, was kind of, as I was growing up, it was kind of undefined. And then really it just became crystal clear. When I was at Bluffton, well, two things. I had a great baseball coach in high school named Mark Nell, and he was intense as intense can be. And at the time I was probably, I certainly appreciated it in high school, but I think through the years I grew to appreciate it even more. The discipline, the structure, the rigidness sometimes isn't easy for a young man, but I tell you what, I've just grown to appreciate it to the 10th degree now as a man. And as I got into college football, playing at Bluffton University, I was enjoying my time and we were getting better and I was having success on the field, but it really wasn't until Tyson Veit got the job there that I saw, his organizational approach, and he resembled that of my baseball coach from high school. And I think right then and there, it just kind of clicked that kind of getting into the family business of teaching and coaching and serving other people is certainly what I wanted to do. And then the organization and the intensity that these people worked with, I really liked, because I think
Tyson's intense.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's the tip of the spear, and I loved that. I respected it, and I think it fit my personality. I think we're both A-type personalities and alphas, and boy is that kind of just what propelled me and motivated me to get into the business. And
to be kind of the same in a way. You've probably answered it, but when you get up every morning, what excites you about football? What gets you most excited about football?
I think it's just the never-ending quest to improve and to get better and to progress and to make a positive impact on other people. To me, a lot of other people that they run from that because when they're off at 4 or 5 o'clock, they want to clock out and they want to turn their brains off and they don't want to be bothered with the work. And there's just certain people in the world, I suppose, that never being off and always thinking and game planning, but also strategizing, like fundraising, right? Like the financial piece of it, the 12-month calendar, the alumni, the outreach, the academic side of things, the community service. it's just this large Rubik's cube that you're constantly working. And to me, it's just a never ending, I don't want to call it a game, but a quest, right? Like it's just a journey that's what keeps my fire lit every day.
What's the biggest challenge that you see or football players today? Just college level. Let's go there because that's where you are. What's the biggest challenge those guys have?
I think blocking out the outside noise. There's so much that the media, the social media, it's
right.
There's just so much nonsense and so much noise that, I mean, the most recent one is this JUCO case that's really affecting the Division I ranks. That the young man down in Vanderbilt is going to be able to get a year back or some years back, and there was a player in Michigan that got denied, but yet a player in Virginia that was awarded that. Yeah. I think in the sport of baseball, but the same thing's applicable to us. Yeah. And now we got guys thinking, well, maybe I should go JUCO because really I'm not burning any years, and that's false. The court case is only naming the explicit individuals that are represented in that case, and so you're constantly trying to be the moral compass for these young men, and at times it can be like herding cats because there's just so much nonsense that's being discussed nationally, and
it's crazy. Yeah. Okay, I have two more questions for you. One, I think, is both of them are important, but why is the athlete's public image so important, Chip? Why is the athlete's image? We can even go high school in general. High school, why is that image so important?
Well, me personally, in my opinion, football is the tail that wags the dog. It's the front porch of every high school. It's the front porch of every college. We truly, like, the football program is the most important student body group and organization on campus, period. And that, once again, that is applicable to high school. I mean, that's applicable to junior high, high school, and any college in America.
Right.
So if you're a member of that football program, whether it's a coach or a player, and you put on the colors and the logo, you have to be on. And that kind of speaks to what I was talking about. There's a certain fabric that coaches have to have, and I would argue that players as well. You are always on. You're always an ambassador for the program, and
coaches too.
That's right. And you can't do anything to embarrass or compromise the program and yourself. And now in the last several years, with your ability with the NIL, so now you have an ability to monetize that. Right. So, I mean, it used to be just for pride and tradition and respect of your school and your community. That's how you ought to be. Yeah. But now, quite literally, you could be affecting your own pocketbook. So now more than ever, it's important for all the reasons.
Good. By the way, before we finish here, great job. I appreciate you tracking you down and coming on and answering my PM on Facebook. And I've known you for a long time, and I respect the heck out of you because you've kind of followed the process. You started high school, well, I don't know, and then the small college, and then now you're at Division II. And I think the other thing is I appreciated about you is that you've worked hard to get where you are. And a lot of times we have to take a step back, 2 steps back to go 1 step forward, or 1 step back to go 2. But people can't be afraid of taking a step back. Sometimes you have to do that. So my last comment to you is, it's kind of silly, what's the greatest piece of advice that you've gotten about coaching? What's the greatest piece of advice you have? I'm sure there are many, but what do you think is one of the best you got?
So 2 things. The biggest piece of advice that's been given to me is you got to live by the written word. So I think that I communicate pretty clearly, and I sit with people and I explain to them the expectation, whether that's players or coaches or administrators or parents within the program, what have you. It wasn't until I got, maybe 2 or 3 years in that I realized I just need to put everything in my brain on paper, and I need to make manuals for coaches, and I need to have almost a small manual for parents at parent night, players, and just put it all down. And now that it hasn't been perfect. We still have to meet on various things, but we're coaching a faceless program. It doesn't matter whether I'm at Waite High School or St. Francis or AIC or Wingate or Ohio State. You have to live by this plan. You have to identify it ahead of time. You can't change because maybe you didn't get the result you wanted against this opponent, and now you're changing things up. You have to have this well thought out in advance. Good. And then just stay to it.
Chip, Coach, I appreciate you very much.
I appreciate you, John. Like I said, what you do for young people and especially high school coaches and players in the state of Ohio is phenomenal. I can't thank you enough for having me on today.
Thank you.